Welcome to another episode of Healing Through Love. Each week, we share ideas, experiences, and resources to increase the awareness of domestic and family violence and to empower survivors to grow and thrive. We talk with experts who share their advice, or with people who have experienced abuse, no matter where they are on their journey. This is all about healing through love. And now, here are your hosts, Charlene Lynch and Rose Davidson.
The Healing Through Love podcast with host Charlene Lynch and Rose Davidson would love to acknowledge Global Glamping Charities Incorporated for generously supporting this podcast. Global Glamping Charities, solving homelessness in all of its forms. Reach out to them at globalglamping.org. The Healing Through Love podcast with Charlene Lynch and Rose Davidson. Acupuncture can relieve symptoms of stress, anxiety and trauma. In episode 41, Dr. Elizabeth Langer explains how we can use it to better our health.
Absolutely. I mean, kids are people. You know, they're just smaller. When kids have challenges, I think one of the hardest things about being a kid is that you can't say no. You're not allowed to say no to doctors, to anybody. And it's like, I feel like it's, in a way, it's kind of disempowering. One of the things like I love to do with like, even like with chiropractic, I love working with that because it just gives them, they love it. It's fun. But with acupressure, it's something they can do for themselves. They don't need to, they don't need to ask permission to do it. They can just do it. And if their parent can teach them that, that's really cool. And
the Healing Through Love podcast with Charlene Lynch and Rose Davidson.
Hello and welcome to the Healing Through Love podcast. I'm your host, Charlene Lynch from charlenelynch.com. Healing Through Love is here to help victims and survivors of domestic and family violence to find their way back to living a more fulfilling and meaningful life. We interview experts and survivors who share their personal stories and offer advice to those who've experienced abuse, no matter where they are on their healing journey. As well as the Healing Through Love podcast, we hold annual Pamper Days here in Adelaide and soon to be across the world. So we're a bit excited about this. We're launching our global campaign here in May. For survivors of domestic and family violence, local businesses come and pay it forward. So I think day spa on steroids. It's all for free and it's a beautiful, beautiful experience. We're looking for organisations with similar values to either pay it forward or help us with the organising. So if this sounds like something that you want to do, please reach out to us. We would love to connect. Today, I've got a very, very special guest. Her name is Dr. Elizabeth Langer. She's an acupressurist, an acupuncturist, a chiropractor, and an energy healer. Now, she really enjoys providing her patients with gentle, effective pain relief. She especially enjoys working with fertility and helping kids on the spectrum. She has a unique approach to teaching you acupressure, and she's here today to have a conversation with us. I can't wait to dive in deep. Hello, Elizabeth. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
It feels like it's been ages since I spoke to you, but it's really not been that time at all. It's lovely to have you, and thank you so much for being a guest. And I love the quiet energy that you bring to us, and it's very calming. So I love it. Instantly in your presence, I feel calm. So thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'd love to know, Dr. Langer, or can I call you Elizabeth? That
you can call me Liz if you like.
Thanks, Liz. I feel like old friends now. So Liz, I'd love to know, this is a specialty area, very unique, ancient technology, ancient technique. What drew you to go into this specialty field along with your chiropractor?
Well, for acupuncture, I remember when I was 14 and I read an article about a woman in China who had open heart surgery with just acupuncture, no anesthesia. I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. But I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I kept that in here. And then when I was 17, I wanted to go into medicine, traditional medicine, but I wanted to be like an old time doctor, but wasn't quite how the medical field was going. And then I looked into chiropractic and it clicked, but I still wanted to do acupuncture. So I was crazy and did them both at the same time. But I think what really, really shaped me is my daughter. That changed everything. I mean, she came after I was in school because I was like hustle, 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 like all about like networking, boots on the ground, like that. And then it was like, oh, I have this little person. and things just did a complete 180 in a good way. And as far as acupressure, I think it's a really good way to take acupuncture and the benefits of it home with you, because you can do it yourself. You can do it anywhere. You can do it on the subway. If somebody is kind of scary and they're tap dancing a little too loud and you're like, okay, what are they doing? Just calm.
I love it. So for our listeners, so let's get more a description. So
Sure.
Acupuncture is where the flesh is actually punctured with a needle. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yep. And so acupressure is just the applying of pressure on the same pressure points. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Right. So that's fascinating. So obviously you need to see a specialist when you're piercing the skin. So is it still as effective if you're just pressing on the point as opposed to having a needle inserted?
Absolutely. I mean, it is different. Sometimes, you need somebody else to help you, but if, it's all about the energy. It's all about the energy behind it. And especially, and I guess this is what spoke to me with you, what you're doing, when parents do it with their kids. And I know some of the people you work with, they've seen a lot and they've been through a lot. And what I love about acupressure, and I got so excited because it's such a safe touch to teach your kids. With my daughter, yeah, she gets chiropractic anytime she wants it, but she hates acupuncture. She really hates acupuncture. Most kids don't like needles, but for her, it's a safe touch. And yes, she has autism, and all kids are different, but she's actually very huggable. You don't have to, do you know what I mean? You can kind of, she can play with her. You don't have to worry about like, oh my gosh, you can't touch her. You can't do this. You can't do that. She's fine, for the most part. And I think that's what I like to teach acupressure, because not everybody can get to the acupuncturist, and sometimes you can't always afford it with this economy. But acupressure, you can do it.
I love it. So it's like an emergency kit, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
You might need to go to a doctor to have surgery, but you can't do that yourself. Yes.
No.
And this is like learning how to apply pressure to the wound, or how to just keep yourself together until maybe you can get more serious work, or you've had that back alignment and you've had the acupuncture, and now you just need to bring yourself back into alignment to continue that frequency of healing. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. I love it. You have to stop calling me ma'am. I'm just not old enough to be a ma'am. I'm 56. I know, but I'm in denial. Most days I pretend to be 36.
You know what? It's the martial artist in me. I call people younger than me sir and ma'am. I call kids sir and ma'am.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. So you've got all of these amazing tools in your toolkit. And as you've mentioned, you have a daughter that's on the spectrum. Yeah. And so, and understanding her special needs has led you to believe that even the acupressure is even more important and has a broader capacity because it's
Yeah.
safe, it's easy to use, and everyone can use it. Now, our listeners would love to know some easy tools and techniques that if you could share them with us today. So some of the things that come up a lot with post-traumatic stress disorder and all of the trauma things that drive us to move forward. I say us because I'm a survivor, as is Rose, our president. And most of the girls that work with us are survivors. Well, we like to call ourselves victors, but that's okay. That's another story. So anxiety is one of the things that really sets us off. So, and also nausea too, which is just caused from compressed anxiety that goes on for a longer period of time. So we have little panic attacks, breathing challenges, and sometimes we're in public and triggers happen and it's out of our control, and we have to work very diligently to get ourselves back on track so that we can function. So if you've got some tools and techniques that you could share with us today, that would be amazing. And some of you listening to this and some people will be watching it. So tell us what you're doing as you're doing it.
Sure. The first thing I like to teach people, now when I do it, I like a little more pressure. But when you're doing it to yourself for the first time, or if you're doing it to somebody else, like especially your child, use this finger, your ring finger, because you can't put as much pressure on it. Or pretend like you're putting pressure on like a really ripe tomato that you don't want to bruise. You can always add more. That's the cool thing. You can always add more, but sometimes you just want to start off real soft. I like a firm pressure, but you can do this. And you know what? If you like tapping, you can even tap. For me, I hate the way tapping feels. So I'm sorry for the tappers. I just don't like the feel of it. But this one is called Yin Tong. And this is a really good point for headaches, nausea, and it's stress. And oddly enough, I am a little bit afraid of needles. So that's one of the reasons I'm gentle with acupuncture.
So for our listeners, we've got our finger almost equally between our eyebrows and just a fraction up. Is that what we just say? Just a fraction up?
Right between your eyebrows.
Right between your eyebrows.
I'm just going to use my middle finger.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah,
there we go.
So you can see.
We look like we're about to be doing Bollywood dancing.
Yeah.
I can say I'm a Bollywood dancer.
Oh, that is so cool. That's just where your third eye is, and it just really helps to relax the entire system.
I love it.
Another easy one that I like to do is, and this one is it's like the pregnancy point. It's on your wrist. It's about 2 or 3 fingers. You just want to go to your wrist crease, and like you can feel like this, and right about here. Right in between the 2 tendons, you can wiggle your fingers. You can feel that. That's where the C bands are. Yeah.
It's gooey.
Yeah. This one's really good for like when you have like that nausea, stress, but also like heart palpitations and just absolute panic.
Okay. So if anyone sees me doing this, this is me calming down a panic attack. Okay. I love it.
Yeah, it's also good if you're car sick too.
Except you need to have a hand on the car whilst you're driving it. So maybe pull over before you try this.
Or actually, I don't get car sick when I drive, but I get car sick if I'm a passenger sometimes.
Oh yeah, because we're not watching driving. So absolutely, if you're not driving, yes, you can do this one. Dr. Elizabeth said you can. I love it.
There is actually one on the knee. I don't know how I can show it.
Well, just tell us where it is.
Okay, sure. So it's on the front of your knee.
Okay, I'm feeling my knee now. Yeah.
Find your kneecap.
Yes, I found my kneecap.
I want you to go to the center. I want you to go down.
Yeah.
You're going to feel one bump.
Yeah.
That's at the end of your kneecap. You're going to go down a little bit. You're going to find another bump.
Oh, look at that. There's another bump.
And then you're going to go to the outside of your knee.
Inside or the outside? So
just the outside, about 1 finger breadth.
Okay, yeah.
And then you're going to go down just a little bit. And you're going to feel like this tender spot.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
What's that?
That's called Stomach 36 or Zusanli, and I'm so sorry, my Chinese is terrible, but I'm sorry.
What is,
It's
hang
like
on,
the
I
hardest.
want to know what this is doing to me while I'm pressing it. Thanks.
It's doing so many things. First off, it's grounding you. It's a
Oh,
wonderful point just to ground you.
I love it.
It helps to really boost your chi, your energy, and your blood.
Oh,
And it's good. It's great for your digestion sometimes, and also like when you're anxious, your stomach gets crazy.
yeah,
Um, so
yeah.
it's really helpful. And I remember reading that it actually helps to boost your white blood cell count.
Oh, I love it. Isn't it
So
funny? So when I get particularly nervous, I find that I rub my fingers over the sides of my knees. I don't know why, but it's like I'm self-soothing or something. And
yeah,
look at
and
that, I'm pressing the right point.
you do it instinctually. You
Who would have
know,
known?
you
And
know.
another one that I instinctively used to do as a child was this one here, which I've now known as the nasolabial clef. But
Hmm.
that one for me later on, once I knew sort of why I was pressing it, is like if I'm going to throw up, if I'm going to feel nauseous, if I'm feeling unwell. So can you
Yeah,
tell us a little bit about that one there? Yeah.
sure, absolutely. Actually, this one, this is the point where you can press if somebody passes out.
Oh, that makes
Uh-huh.
sense.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, that makes sense. Oh, yes, that makes sense. And what sort of pressure do you put on that?
A little bit harder because if they're passed out. When I was taught in school, they were just taught to needle it, but although that would really hurt, that would probably knock you up. But it's a good point, like if somebody just passed out.
So for
Um,
our audience that's listening and not watching,
mhm.
we've got our
Yeah.
fingers not up our nose, but underneath our nose, in the little groove that we would
Yeah.
normally paint if we're putting lipstick on, right directly underneath the nose. And there's a little bit
Mhm.
of tissue there, and you can feel you can feel little
Yeah.
sinews on both sides, and the pressure point is right in the middle of that.
Hmm. You know what? It would probably be really good for when you're starting to panic and everything is just going black because I've had panic attacks before and and it just I could function through it, but like it was not fun because everything was just kind of I get tunnel vision. And if I would have just thought about it at the time, because I was a lot younger, but you just press this and it's like, okay, it'll kind of bring you back a little bit.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's like an emergency point. I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
Isn't this fabulous that
Yeah.
that we've got fingers,
Yep.
and when we know where these pressure points are, we can use our own, our own selves to help heal ourselves, or to at least keep ourselves in check, and so that we can then see a specialist. um, moving forward. I love that. That's fantastic. So like, you obviously love working with people on fertility, and as you've said,
Yeah.
children on the spectrum. But maybe can we just dive into children on the spectrum? Because I know many of
Absolutely.
our clients have children that have some challenges, not necessarily
Yeah.
that spectrum. It could be another one, because there's so
Oh
many.
yeah.
And yes, and just because of the environment, they've had
Mhm.
different challenges. So can you just talk to us about different things that you can do for kids? That'd be amazing. I know that's huge, but if you could just talk a little bit about that, that'd be amazing.
Absolutely. I mean, kids are people. They're just smaller. But it really gives them when kids have challenges. I think one of the hardest things about being a kid is that you can't say no. You're not allowed to say no to doctors, to anybody. And it's like, I feel like in a way, it's kind of disempowering. And, and for kids that already have challenges, maybe they've had their power taken away from them more than like, oh, than the average child. Do you know what I mean?
Yep. Yes.
And one of the things like I love to do with like even like with chiropractic, I love working with that because it just gives them they love it. It's fun. But with acupressure, it's something they can do for themselves. They don't need to, they don't need to ask permission to do it. They can just do it. And if their parent can teach them that, that's really cool. And I've worked with like a lot of patients who've been victims, or victors of domestic violence, but some were still victims, and they weren't ready to leave. And in the state of where I'm at, as long as the kids are safe, I can't report. And once the kids are a threat physically, I have to. But even when the kids just witness it, that's hard, So you want to teach the moms or the dads, just ways that they can reconnect and how touch can actually be safe. And like with my daughter, like touch is safe for her because she was always touched. And while I think she is the most wonderful person in the world, I also recognize that anyone should be able to have those opportunities. So I think I hope I answered your question.
I love it. I love it. And as a woman with a very long history of mental health issues and being ably different, is self-soothing is something that, in my darkest periods of time, it's the self-soothing stuff, even just cuddling myself and rocking. It was those things that helped me be relatively normal so I could function, even though I wasn't really functioning. And so this beautiful technology that you're showing us here, that chiropractic, we can't be going around doing that on ourselves. Let's not do that.
No.
That's a no-no. And if anyone tells you they can and they're not qualified, just run if you can, you're able. So you definitely need to be using acupressure. Is something that you can learn where the pressure points are, and it's something that you can use because there are times in between visits that you do need that extra love. And as you say, it's something that's cost efficient, cost effective as well, and it's something that we can teach our children. And I understand what you're saying, Elizabeth, about the tapping, because not everybody loves tapping. I do. It's taken me a long time. Love it. Yes. And sometimes they don't like the word, sometimes they don't like the motion of the tapping, but yes, and it's still using the acupressure points. It's the thing. So if you want a gentle approach to tapping, then you can get there with the pressure points as opposed to the tapping. I love it. Oh, that's fantastic. So do your clients come to see you specifically for chiropractic or for acupressure, or is it like a combination of both?
Well, I have a brick and mortar practice, so it's where we're at. I probably see more acupuncture patients because there's so many chiropractors in the area. But I do have a good following of chiropractic patients who kind of like a different approach. And then the acupressure is something that I like to teach. And I'm starting to branch out a little bit more online just because I feel like there's more people that could benefit from the acupressure and even the energy healing too. But the acupressure is just something that you can do and you don't need anybody else.
It's
I
love it. I love it. That is so true. And it's like something you can do in between time. And I love the fact that it's not driven by having to have any drugs, because I'm just sort of not a lover of pharmaceuticals. Sorry to all the pharmaceutical companies in the world. I really am a lover of self-healing. I think we were designed this way, and we've just lost the tools and techniques, the technology, that ancient knowledge of how to heal ourselves. And I'm absolutely sure that acupressure is one of those tools that we're supposed to be born with. We're supposed to know what to do, but we need. So it's like knowledge that we've lost. I love it. Now, you were mentioning before we started recording that you've got a lovely offering for the people that are listening today. As long as you mentioned that you heard us here on the Healing Through Love podcast, can you tell us a little bit more about this free offering that you've got?
Yep, I would love to teach you how to do some acupressure to help to soothe yourself, because if you're listening to this podcast, I'm guessing you've been through a bit of a tough time, and I would just give you a session, and I would give you the recording too so you could have that, and go back to it. And you could have like an individualized plan for you and, maybe your child, just to kind of get you through this time.
What a beautiful soul you are. You're amazing. Thanks, Liz. You are amazing. I love it.
Thank you.
Now, how you access that is through a website. Now, of course, she's on all of the platforms, but the easiest way to get hold of her is to go to her website. The link is in the description and the show notes. And just go to the contact section and just contact her like you would through that contact space, and just let her know that you've heard her on the Healing Through Love podcast, and you would really love to take advantage of her free offering, because that's a very rare for someone in your standing to give this sort of this back to the community. And we love the fact that you pay it forward and make a difference for our listeners. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you.
I love it. So what's next for you? You're moving to a little bit more of education and online. Is this for the front end of the funnel for your business, or is this as an addition to what it is that you're doing?
Well, right now it's an addition, but like I said, my daughter, we just moved. So she's sleeping in her own room. That's a story for like the first time. And I really need to be there with her. She's going through so many changes, and I'm like, you know what? I want to be there with her, for her, be more present. And it's harder to do that when you're in your office, working. And if I'm at home, it's a little bit easier. You have more moments together, more support.
Yeah. And how old is she?
She's going to be 12.
Oh, it's a lovely age. It's a challenging age.
Yeah.
It is, but they come through out the other side.
Yeah.
Everything is sort of normal for a little while, and then it goes downhill, but then it comes back up again. So look, it's a long journey, but it's okay. Where it's designed this way. It's like the breaking and putting back together again, and the breaking and putting back together again. But it's beautiful. And I love the fact that you've got this special skill set that you can share with her. So how could we get this information in front of the kids that really need it? So is this like a video that we could play at schools or in communities where the children of special needs are, like in their own training grounds and stuff? Because this would be a great way for them to help calm themselves down.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the more kids that can get empowered, the better. And I will say this, and this is like a little pet peeve of mine. Just because a kid isn't talking to you or making eye contact doesn't mean that they're not listening, doesn't mean that they're not hearing. So they'll learn it. They'll know it. They'll know it.
Yes, and yes. So ADHD. So if I'm looking at you, you're lucky. So it's not just being on the spectrum. There's lots of other reasons why. And as a survivor, when I was living in that space of shame and guilt and blame and all of those lower frequencies, like eye contact was challenging. And to become a professional speaker, one of the biggest challenges for me was just simply looking at the camera. That was one of my biggest challenges. And even standing on stages, looking at people in the eye and communicating with them, it was a challenge. Is that something so simple was such a big challenge? So yes, you don't have to be looking at you to hear you. We're here with our ears, just saying.
Yep.
I could talk to you all day. You're amazing. I love the frequency that you bring. It's so calming and so soothing. And if we were closer, I would come over for chiropractic, but we're a little bit distance, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to online being in your energetic presence and supporting you and being an advocate for the things that you do. I'm excited to see what these videos are and how you're going to move that forward with the training. And it's such a blessing. And I think it's amazing that you've made a decision to change your work-life balance so that you can be that supportive mother. That is absolutely beautiful. And that you've made such a wonderful offering to our listeners in allowing them to contact you and have that session for free just by mentioning the Healing Through Love show. I love it. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye for now, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Healing Through Love. You can get further resources, see the show notes, or simply reach out to us via our website at htlaustralia.org. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to your company next time on the Healing Through Love podcast.